Hi there, everybody. Russ Lewis here in the KHOU newsroom. It is just about 25 minutes until 2 o'clock when we're expecting that press conference from Austin Police, giving us a better idea of what's going on with their investigation into the disappearance and death of Heidi Broussard and the recovery of her 1-month-old baby girl, Margot. So we're going to bring you up to speed here. I know a lot of you have been watching this and are interested in this, and we wanted to get in ahead of this press conference here to update you on the new information that we've been able to gather here in the hour and a half, 2 hours or so since we left you last, because some things have changed. Let's first of all talk about the woman under arrest here in this case. Let me back up a little bit. If you're just joining us on this story, you know that Heidi Broussard disappeared from Austin on December 12th. With her infant daughter just a few weeks old. So shortly before midnight in a neighborhood in Northwest Harris County, not far from Jersey Village, the Rolling Fork neighborhood, investigators showed up. They searched the home and searched a vehicle parked in back. In the trunk of that vehicle, they found a body that Heidi's mother has told CBS Austin is Heidi Broussard. They found little Margot inside the home, apparently unhurt, alive and fine, taken to the hospital to be checked out, but apparently okay. So that's what we know so far. Then we hear that there is a woman in custody that at some point, we're told, will be charged with kidnapping and tampering with a corpse, at least. Those would be the first charges, according to law enforcement sources out of Austin. Her name is Megan Fieramusca. Now, we're being told by neighbors she lived in this home. We don't think she owned the home, but we think she lived there with a man. That man's name, Christopher Green. We don't know if he's involved in this in any way, just that she lived there with him. So that's what we know so far. Let's go ahead and have we shown the mugshot of her, Jaime? Let's throw that up. So there she is, 33 years old, Megan Fieramusca. Law enforcement sources telling our Austin stations that she had plotted to take away Margot from her good friend, Heidi Broussard, plotted before the baby was even born, that she had this scheme going. And law enforcement sources also saying that she pretended to be pregnant herself. And you can only assume that's for the cover story when she at some point had a baby girl, right? So although we don't know that for sure, law enforcement sources saying she pretended to be pregnant prior to this. She is in custody. She appeared in a magistrate court, we call it probable cause court, here in Harris County just a few hours ago. We'll show you that video here. I understand it's not a great picture. She has her head down, but that is Megan Fieramusca there in court. Here's the interesting part to this. She was only appearing here on some traffic tickets, past traffic tickets. She lives in the Houston area, apparently had some outstanding, again, these are just misdemeanor traffic citations. She was fined a small amount on those 6 tickets, and she was credited with time served on those fines. Now, we're expecting to learn in this press conference what the situation is with her right now. The latest we can check on her exact location is she is still at the inmate processing center here in Houston. We don't think she's been taken to jail across the street yet, but we're fairly certain also she has not been released for obvious reasons. We have a couple of crews down there staking out the entrances and exits to see if she comes out. And we hopefully will be able to if she's maybe taken up to Austin by investigators there, or maybe she is moved underground to the jail. But as of right now, we think she's still at the inmate processing center, although we can't confirm that. So, why wasn't she charged here with those initial crimes? Don't know for sure. We did talk to our legal expert, Professor Gerald Treese, about that. And although he is not involved in this case, he says one possibility is they think the crimes happened up in Austin, and therefore she'll be taken back to Travis County and be charged there with these serious crimes. She has not been charged here with those crimes yet, as far as we know. We've not seen any paperwork on it. But since she did have outstanding issues, albeit misdemeanors, traffic citations, since they had her in custody, they wanted to clear that up. And maybe that's just routine procedure to clear everything off the books locally before someone in custody is sent somewhere else to face whatever charges there. That's all just trying to be logical about what they did. But there she is with head down, only looked up when she was called upon, and it was a 30-second deal in front of the magistrate in PC court here a couple of hours ago. So we do know that this woman is in custody. We do know that, according to sources, she was a good friend of Heidi Broussard, had plotted to take her baby and pretended herself to be pregnant leading up to that. We don't know much about the owner of the home where she lived, Christopher Green. He is listed as one of 2 owners of that property, and the other woman is not Megan Firamusca. So we don't know much about that situation there. As for Margot, the approximately 1-month-old little girl who has now lost her mother, but is apparently in good health and doing okay. We do know that the child is in the custody of the state, of CPS. So taken from the home where she was found to the hospital and then checked out, and apparently is doing just fine. We want to bring in and talk about this. Cheryl Mercedes is here.
Let me get the seat correct.
Come on in. Yeah. It's okay. I know these chairs are a little difficult here.
Oh, let me push over. Or if we can, I can just stand. It's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, there she is right there.
Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
I know, Cheryl, you've been spending the last little while here digging into what's going on with little Margot. Mm-hmm. This is standard procedure, not surprising that even though there is family available here, initially she's in CPS custody.
Absolutely, and when we posted this online, a lot of the questions we're getting from you, our viewers, are that, why is she in foster care? Clearly she has relatives. That's a first step.
Right, let's bring that up. There's the father,
right,
who was Heidi's fiance,
correct,
Shane Carey, in Austin.
Her parents,
we've seen her mother be very involved and talk to reporters in Austin as well. So we know of at least, several immediate family members.
We know they're there because they've been in the media before last night.
Right.
So they have been speaking out about this. So a lot of people are concerned about this beautiful child here. What happens to the child? Well, with CPS, of course, there is a process. There are procedures they have to follow. The reason that the infant is in foster care right now, I'm told, is that law enforcement has to do background checks on all of those relatives. They have to first confirm that they are indeed relatives, confirm that they have a clean background, no criminal history, and then CPS has to look into their files and see, do any of these people have a history with us? Mm-hmm. And then they have to show CPS that they're capable of caring for children and that they have in the past. And we're talking about a 1-month-old here, an infant. And that child needs critical care.
Right.
And someone who knows how to handle an infant and knows what they need. Right now, that child, CPS tells us, is with a family that is capable of making sure that that child's needs are met.
But not her family.
It's not with her family. It's with a foster family.
Right.
And, this doesn't just involve interviews with relatives once they're confirmed. CPS investigators need to go into those homes and make sure, hey, this is a safe place for this child.
Right.
So there are all kinds of investigative methods they use to find that out. Now, we have had the opportunity to ride along with 2 CPS investigators in the past. We did an extensive investigation involving CPS a few months ago, and it's meticulous. These caseworkers have steps to follow. The interviews each are at least an hour and a half long. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything needs to be asked.
Well, and there may be some people watching out there saying, well, wait a minute, you're talking about the grandparents and the dad in this case, but I think you have to understand that the state is going to be liable for what they do with this child next. I mean, if they put that child in a place where that child gets hurt, and maybe it's something simple like falling down the stairs or something in a home that wasn't ready for an infant.
They're responsible.
Now their CPS is on the hook and getting trashed because they put the child in an unsafe situation. So I think it's totally understandable why CPS is going to even interview grandma and grandpa to make sure that they have a place for this child. But that's where she ends up
and
going.
they do have that responsibility, you know, and while the neighbors, family and friends may know grandma and grandpa, the state might not, you know, and if that's the case, then they may be a good place for that child, but they've got to go through all those steps, because you're right, all this will go through a litigation process, and the state will be held responsible ultimately for where this child is placed.
Now CPS, correct me if I'm wrong, but their first inclination is put a child with an immediate family member if at all possible.
Absolutely.
So dad and grandma and grandpa would be looked at first.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, one of them will step up, one of the relatives, and say, hey, we would like to care for this child and have them in our home for now. We'd like temporary custody of that child placement. And that's where CPS will start. Let's interview them. Let's look at their home. Let's look at their records, because right now I'm told they're doing everything possible to make sure that that child is with relatives.
And as quickly as possible, I'm sure, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, the foster family, I'm sure, is doing a great job, but no substitute for dad or grandma and grandpa.
And I asked as well, like, you know, what's the time frame on this? How long will it take? Well, there's no definite time frame on this. There's no hard deadline. It just depends on CPS's investigation, what they gather, and then what law enforcement gathers and what they bring together to the table as far as child placement and whether or not the child can go in the relative's home. So,
and the first step, I'm sure, is you got to clear anybody as being having any part in this.
Absolutely.
You know, officially
Absolutely.
cleared.
Yeah, and that's law enforcement handling that.
Right.
And also verifying, hey, is this really a relative? Because we don't know at this point. We don't know. So they're doing everything possible with both of those agencies, law enforcement and CPS, to make certain that this child goes to a safe home. And we know the holidays are next week.
I know.
You know, and that is so tough on all of these families. But they've got to do their jobs at the end of the day.
But there's no time frame. And
There's no time frame.
We don't know if it's possible that Margot could be back with a family member in time for Christmas. Not that the baby knows any different, but but you know, I mean.
But it gives them peace of mind.
For the other family, sure.
A grandmother, grandfather, if they check out, of course they want that child with them, you know. And I did look a little bit into the policy procedure manual, and they do say typically, you know, it's a 30-day process. But in situations like this, you know, everything changes. You know, they're moving faster. They're doing this investigation, doing the interviews, doing the home inspections. You know, they want this child to be with family.
Yeah, this went to the top of the pile, right? The top of the list.
Absolutely.
Jaime, before we let Cheryl go, can you just look and see if anyone's writing in with any specific questions about Margot or CPS, something that.
And let me check my page as well, because I've posted here. I've had some questions.
There's so much interest in this, Cheryl. We're trying to answer people's questions as we go along here.
Absolutely.
Because they're coming up with great questions. Some we have answers to and some we don't. So we don't mind revealing that.
Yeah, you know, and it's, you know, CPS has to be very careful with what they release, because in the past, in the investigations that we have done, those cases involve child fatalities. Well, this is different. We possibly have the mother here who is deceased, and so the information they can release is sensitive, and they can't release a lot of it to us. But they can talk generically about the process, the procedures, and how this situation is a little bit different than others that they may have encountered.
If you're just joining us, we are waiting on this press conference from Austin Police. We are ready to go on that here, scheduled for 10 minutes from now, with an update on the case of Heidi Broussard and her infant daughter, Margot. Heidi, according to Heidi's mom, found in the back of a trunk of a vehicle in Northwest Harris County early this morning by authorities. 33 years old, her infant daughter Margot, found inside that home unhurt, now in a foster home with CPS custody this afternoon. And they're just a lot of missing pieces here as far as the timeline, where they believe this crime occurred. We don't know if we're going to get all those answers today, but it's interesting in this case, even though Harris County sheriffs and Houston police and a lot of local agencies are involved, FBI, even Texas Rangers, they are all deferring to Austin PD. So anything we've been able to get has either come from law enforcement sources out of Austin, a few things coming out locally, but most of the local agencies are deferring to Austin and waiting for the official press conference and update to come here in the next few minutes. But we will have that streaming live for you here. We'll be here before and after to answer any questions and kind of fill in the blanks here after we hear from Austin police. But there are, Cheryl, many unanswered questions here just about, you know, the involvement of
Christopher Green.
The man that Megan lived with in this home. Is he involved at all? Is he just an innocent guy here who lived there with her and had no idea this was going on?
Right.
We don't know.
And a lot of people want to know that as well. And why
Right.
isn't the baby with the father? Well, again, law enforcement, CPS, they're doing their investigation.
Yeah, one thing we can tell you is law enforcement has told our sources in Austin that they don't believe that Shane Carey, the fiance of Heidi, and the father of 2 of their 3 children, including Margot, they do not believe that he is involved in any way.
And that's good that they're releasing that. You can tell from just that information that they're moving quickly. They're being precise, but they're moving quickly. You know, I'm sure they would want nothing more than this child to be returned to family for the holidays, for Christmas.
Right.
So at this point, you have to count on CPS doing their investigation, and then the law enforcement agency, and then them communicating and verifying each other's information to make absolutely sure that this child is placed in a safe home.
Do we have any idea of how long this process might take in order before the child is back in the hands of family members?
You know, typically on their policy manual, CPS says they try to do this in a 30-day time frame, but this situation is very different. You know, we've got an infant here who's 1 month old. This is a child who cannot speak, who cannot tell the story of what happened. So they have to rely on interviews, inspections, criminal background checks, CPS checks. But they're working as quickly as possible. And they're not saying it's going to take 30 days. You know, that is just the time frame they typically put. But this is a very different case.
Let's, I'll tell you what, Cheryl, thank you. Real quick, we want to,
Absolutely.
before we get to this press conference, we, from that neighborhood there in Rolling Fork, again, not just outside Jersey Village, we talked to a couple of neighbors out there today, and I thought one woman in particular had quite a bit of insight into just living, I think she lived right next door to the home where the body and the baby were found. So let's listen to her. It runs about 3 minutes here, but I think you can get an idea of what was going on out there.
They're very quiet. We just, you know, don't know them a whole lot, but they've been here for a while, a couple of years. So
it's
yeah.
Chris and a woman
and his girlfriend. Yeah.
His girlfriend.
I knew they were trying to have a child.
Gotcha. So she's been here as long as he has, or she
No,
moved in a few years later?
She moved in later. She hasn't been with. He had another lady that he bought the house with, and then he was single for some time, and then this young lady has been here at least a year, I think, with him. So,
do you know what her name is by any chance?
You know, I don't. That's just the thing. He's the only one that speaks. She never speaks to anyone.
Is she Caucasian? Is she?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So what happened last night? What did you see?
Well, I didn't get home until very late, but my neighbor called me early in the day to say the Texas Rangers are on our street and they're at Chris's house and all that. So, but when I got home last night, you know, there were Rangers everywhere, and so I had to park at my neighbor's because I couldn't get to my house. And so, anyway.
Did you have any idea what this was about?
No, I thought maybe he was into drugs or something. I never would have thought in a million years it was this.
What are your thoughts?
It's just very upsetting to think you know, someone could do that. But, and I've been following that, her story as being, you know, having been missing, and thought, what in the world could have happened to her? And oh, Lord Jesus, here she in our backyard. But, well, at least her baby's safe, you know, but still very upsetting. Anyway.
It's crazy that you were following the story. You had no idea how close.
No, I know. It's crazy. Yeah, because I'm from Austin. I mean, I'm from LaGrange, and Austin is, you know, all that. So it just really sparked my interest. And then, you know, just the fact they kept showing her on the news all week, you know, that she was missing.
Did you guys see anything suspicious?
No. Again, this neighborhood's just very quiet, very peaceful.
Nothing suspicious with Chris on that day or his...
No, I saw him maybe 2 or 3 days ago, I guess, coming home from work, and he always backs up. And I was bringing in the trash cans, and he just waved like he always does. You know, he doesn't speak much, he just always waves.
And the girlfriend never speaks?
Never speaks.
Anything suspicious about her?
No, I mean, I just thought she was probably shy. You know, they, like I said, they just kind of keep to themselves, go back and forth like we all do, you know, to work. So, anyway.
That's Michelle Choi there. She was talking to a neighbor. I believe that woman lived right next door. She was talking about Chris. We believe Christopher Green, who lived there. And she kind of filled in the blanks, and we heard from another neighbor as well, we'll talk about later, but filled in the blanks with, you know, who lived there and when. We believe Christopher Green bought that house with some other woman years ago, and then she said he was single for a while, and then about a year or so ago, Megan Fiormuska moves in, and she never spoke with her the whole time, but she talked to Chris every once in a while and waved at him and all that. So she
There's so many twists and turns to this.
There is.
Now, Russ, people are asking on my page, where is Dad physically?
We're talking about Margot's dad.
Yes,
now,
Margot's
right?
dad.
Yeah, that would
Margot,
be
the infant's father.
Shane Carey. Right?
Where is Shane?
Yeah, and we don't know that, where he physically is right now. He has talked to the media in Austin throughout this. He was distraught. He was just praying for his fiance and their daughter to come home. But I can't tell you where he is right now. He may be up here, or he may still be in Austin. And
people are asking as well about the DNA tests. When is that going to happen? And we understand that's underway. That process is underway now.
Yeah, the DNA, did we mention that before? The authorities are doing a DNA test on the child they found, just to confirm that it is indeed Margot.
Absolutely.
Be able to confirm it genetically. So that just checks one more thing off the box.
And that's just one of so many things that CPS and law enforcement have to go through. They have to go through their checklist, and it's pretty lengthy, you know, to make sure that Margot goes to the correct place and a safe place. Again, Margot the infant in foster care, we were told this afternoon by CPS.
Okay, you're looking there, and we're keeping this up just so you know that we're on top of it here, but you're looking there at the podium, and the microphone's ready to go at Austin's police department. We're waiting on, in the next few minutes, that press conference to start with an update on this case. So we're going to keep that up just so we know it's coming and you know it's coming, and we don't miss anything here as we get ready to go. We have no idea if they will be on time today or if they won't, but we will keep it up there.
Surely some important information coming out of this. A lot of people wanting to know any update, and who knows what we'll find out here as far as the investigation is concerned and who they've spoken with and how their interview process is going.
Right, this is so early in the investigation.
It is.
We don't know how much information they'll be willing to release at this point. Law enforcement is generally pretty reluctant to, you know, speculate. Especially on this case.
Especially when we have an infant involved here. This is just, and again, it's just so hard and so tough when you have a child here who's so delicate and cannot speak a word and can't tell what happened yet.
Right.
You know, and probably will never remember. We're hoping.
We hope so.
Yeah.
That would be the best part
Absolutely.
of this. So as we wait for this here, let me just kind of recap here. Hold on one second. Okay. Heidi Broussard disappeared December 12th in Austin. She had dropped off a child at an elementary school near her home. We believe that was possibly Shane Carey's child from another relationship, a little bit older child, again, grade school age. Surveillance video has her in that school between 7:30 and 8 a.m. on December 12th, and then that's the last time anybody saw her.
That's it.
That we know. She disappears. We believe she got back home, but disappears. Neighbors don't see or hear anything. Her phone, her wallet, her car keys, her vehicle are all still at her house. So she just vanishes along with Margot on December 12th. Here we are 8 days later. It was late last night, right about midnight actually, that authorities, for some reason, showed up at this house in the Rolling Fork neighborhood, Northwest Harris County, right outside the boundaries of Jersey Village. Something brought them to that house. We hope to learn, the details on that.
Yeah.
But they showed up there late at night and did not want to wait until this morning to act on whatever information they had. They went around back. They found a vehicle parked back there. They opened up the trunk and found the body of Heidi Broussard, according to Heidi's mother. And then inside the home, found 1-month-old Margot unhurt.
Thankfully safe.
We don't know if this woman they have in custody was also in that house.
Yeah.
We don't know if Christopher Green, the owner of the home, was there at that time either.
Correct.
Those are unanswered questions. We assume somebody was with that little baby, but we can't tell you who, if anybody.
Yeah, hopefully they can fill us in on that here at this news conference at 2 o'clock. There's so many twists and turns, so many unanswered questions, and people have been glued to this story.
Mm-hmm.
This beautiful mom, beautiful baby, just gone.
Well, we can see right now thousands of you are watching
Yeah.
just this digital update here, and we were watching this morning. 2,000-3,000 of you were reading the story at any given time on our website, just trying to get the very latest information. So we've done the unusual thing here of coming on and just taking in the information that we've confirmed and giving it to you right away, instead of waiting for a digital update later in the day or on TV this afternoon or evening when we have it all buttoned up into a 1.5 or 2 minute story. We're just kind of giving you the things as they come in to our newsroom, something we don't do very often, but on a case with this kind of interest, we wanted to give you the very latest as soon as we get it. And we're not speculating on stuff. What we're giving you is stuff that either law enforcement's confirmed, sources in law enforcement have confirmed, or family members or neighbors. We're confident in what we're bringing to you, and we're leaving out the stuff that we can't confirm.
what ifs.
And we get those questions a lot from you guys on on the digital platforms. I'm hearing this, I'm reading this, why aren't you talking about that? Well, because we can't confirm it.
And we do have a team working on that as well. All those
Sure.
questions that come in, those concerns, the things you're hearing, you're posting on social media, we have crews working to verify that information, so you will know what has been confirmed and what has not, because things kind of spin out of control with social media and things people hear and thought they heard. So we want to make sure that when you hear it from us, that it is confirmed information. So we do have people working on that, and our investigative team as well, working on some elements for you for later newscasts.
Yeah, we have crews staked out all over the city. We have a couple people down at the jail inmate processing center waiting for this woman in custody to either be moved or moved to jail or moved up to Austin, up to Travis County. We don't know what's going to happen with her next, but we're ready there. We're out in that neighborhood near Jersey Village. And then, of course, we have a couple of affiliates working with us in Austin to get the latest information from there, including providing this live stream of this press conference from Austin PD, expected to start any minute. If it's okay, Jaime, can we go ahead and run, and we're going to dump out of this if we have to, but let's go ahead and run this second neighbor. This is a guy who lives, I believe, next door as well to Christopher Green and Megan Firamuska. And let's hear what he had to say just about his interactions with Chris over the last several years. And again, we're going to put this up. We're going to leave the small box there with Austin PD, and we will dump out of this interview as soon as the police start their press conference. Go ahead.
It's long enough
What
to
did you
hold.
see here yesterday? Can you explain a little bit?
All I've seen yesterday, since I got back from work, was law enforcement.
What's that?
People, mostly Austin PD. But she really needs to go.
Okay. Were they able to tell you anything about what was going on? Did you ask anybody?
No, I asked them a little bit about, what they might know, and all these, all they could tell me was that you might see it on the news tonight, being yesterday.
Seeing that outside your house, what was going through your mind? What is going through your mind now?
Well, we were postulating all different things and everything, you know, somebody wanted or whatever. And then this thing about, you know, the missing girl and her baby came up last night. That's so sad. It's just hard to believe that something could happen right next door. But that's really, you know, all we can say.
Chris, can you talk a little bit about him? He's lived here 4 or 5 years, you said?
Yeah, he's in his early 30s. He's a nice guy. I mean, I've talked to him probably less than 10 times in my life. And he seemed like a nice guy.
Always quiet neighbors.
But he does drive a black SUV. There's a woman that lives there that has lived with him maybe a year and a half or so.
Do they have any kids?
No, I never.
Okay, what did you see here yesterday? Can you explain a little bit?
All I've seen yesterday since I got back from work was law enforcement people, mostly Austin PD. But she really needs to go.
Okay. Were they able to tell you anything about what was going on? Did you ask anybody?
No, I asked them a little bit about, you know, what they might know, and all these, you know, all they could tell me was that you might see it on the news tonight, being yesterday.
Seeing that outside your house, I mean, what was going through your mind? What is going through your mind now?
Well, we were postulating all different things and everything, you know, somebody wanted or whatever. And then this thing about, you know, the missing girl and her baby came up last night. That's so sad. It's just hard to believe that something could happen right next door. But that's really, you know, all we can say.
Chris, can you talk a little bit about him? He's lived here 4 or 5 years, you said?
Yeah, he's in his early 30s. He's a nice guy. I mean, I've talked to him probably less than 10 times in my life. And he seemed like a nice guy.
Always quiet neighbors.
But he does drive a black SUV. There's a woman that lives there that has lived with him maybe a year and a half or so.
Do they have any kids?
No, I never saw any kids.
Did you know if she was pregnant, the woman that lives here?
I didn't know, no. Although I kind of suspected she, you know, when I did see her, she was, you know, a little bigger than she was. And she looked like she might be pregnant, but I didn't know for sure.
But they never give you any trouble? They never?
No, not a bit. I mean, he was a pretty nice guy. You know, he'd ask me about yard work and, you know, what kind of plants and stuff.
So this was a national. This case made national news with the missing mother and her from Austin. So when you saw Austin PD, did you make that connection? Or
no, not at that time. Not until last night. I mean, you know, when we saw the Austin PD, we just thought it was some, you know, somebody wanted in Austin or something. But,
and you said they were searching through her car last night?
No, her car has apparently been in the backyard the whole time. She drives it, or he drives it, or somebody in between the house and the garage and parking on the back patio.
We're back up? Okay, great. That was a second neighbor there as we wait for Austin PD here in their press conference to update us on this case. Both neighbors saying something very similar. If you were with us a little while ago, we talked to that woman who lived next door as well. They both talked to Christopher Green, the owner of the home, occasionally, not a lot, but neither ever talked to Megan Fiermuska, the woman who lived there with him, the one who is now under arrest and we're told will be charged at some point in this case. So both neighbors saying roughly the same thing, that they were never any bother, that he appeared to be a nice guy, neighborly, waved, talked about things occasionally, not super talkative, but they would see him come and go to work, and that they never spoke to her, but they did see her come in and out of the house because she had lived there, according to this last gentleman, about a year and a half. The woman told us about a year or so. That seems fairly consistent as well. We're looking here as they zoom in on the door in Austin. Maybe something's about to happen there, but we have it up and we're going to take that full and take it live for you as soon as The investigators in Austin there are ready to give us an update on this case. Every law enforcement agency involved here has deferred to Austin. The federal agencies, FBI, the Texas Rangers, Harris County Sheriff's Office, everybody involved in this has really not said much about anything that's happened here in the last 12 hours or so, deferring to Austin since that's where Heidi Broussard lived, and that's where she's from, and that's where the investigation started when she disappeared 8 days ago. So we are waiting for an update from them, and we expect some of those answers from investigators. Let's go live now to Austin with the update.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out for an update on the investigation into the missing mother and child from here in Austin. I appreciate your patience in waiting for this briefing today. I want to introduce a few of the folks that are here with me that will be speaking at this press conference today. I have Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Christopher Combs. I have Margaret Moore, the Travis County District Attorney. With us representing DPS is Todd Snyder, who is the Regional Director, and then Austin Police Department Detective Brad Harries. I want to identify at the beginning of this press conference that we will go against our standard practice of taking questions at the end of this press conference because this is still a very active and ongoing investigation. We have multiple teams of investigators that are at different jurisdictions as we speak in this room today that are still investigating this case. So we are going to give you all of the information that we can share at this point. We understand there is a tremendous amount of interest in this case, but we're going to give you all the information that we can, and we commit to you that we will give you updates as we can without impacting the integrity of this investigation. It is heartbreaking circumstances that bring us here today. As you all are well aware that there has been a lot that has developed in the overnight hours. This all began back on December 12th when 33-year-old Heidi Broussard and infant daughter, 2-week-old baby Margot Casey were last seen as they dropped off their sibling and their son at school, and we have been investigating their disappearance since that time. On Tuesday, APD Detective Harries gave a very thorough briefing to the media on what had been developed at that point through the investigation, and there's a lot that has happened since that time. Most notably, the events that took place out in the Houston and Harris County area overnight and into the early morning hours today. Detective Harries will give you a briefing here momentarily, updating the specifics of what took place. But what we will confirm at this point is that we did recover an infant female child that we do believe at this time is Margot. However, we are awaiting the results of DNA testing to confirm that identity, and that testing may take us between 48 and 72 hours to get that confirmation. Additionally, we recovered the body of an adult female. We do believe that this is Miss Broussard. However, again, we are awaiting the results of the autopsy to confirm her identity. We do have one person that has been arrested and charged. The charges that have been filed at this point are 2 charges of kidnapping and 1 charge of tampering with a corpse. We are not confirming the identity of the suspect at this time. I do understand that there are pictures being circulated and names being circulated in the media. However, we're not going to confirm, again, to protect the integrity of this ongoing investigation. There may be additional charges that are filed in this case as the investigation carries on, and that will be determined as we develop more information and uncover more evidence. This was a tremendous undertaking by many different divisions that I will recognize before Detective Harries comes up and gives a briefing. Several units from the Austin Police Department participated in this investigation, to include our Homicide Division, our Missing Persons Division, our Special Investigations Unit, our Robbery Unit, our Violent Crimes Task Force, our Organized Crime Division. The Texas DPS Rangers were involved, the Travis County District Attorney's Office, the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, their CARD squad was here, Texas Parks and Wildlife, Travis County Search and Rescue, and Child Protective Services. all pulled together to work on this case. Again, everyone hoping for an outcome different than the one it appears that we had, and that is with a loss of life. And although we are grateful that it appears as though we have safely recovered baby Margot, again, we do believe that Ms. Broussard lost her life in this incident. Detective Harries will now come up and give you a briefing on the events that have taken place in this investigation over the past 24 hours.
Good afternoon. My name is Brad Harries. I'm a detective with the Austin Police Department Cold Case Homicide and Missing Persons Unit. I'm going to go through a brief timeline of the events that have happened in the past 7 or 8 days. This is not all-inclusive. On Thursday, December 12th, 2019, Heidi Broussard, she's a 33-year-old white female, and her 2-week-old baby, Margot, were last seen dropping off Heidi's 6-year-old child at his school at Cowan Elementary. Heidi and Margot are believed to have returned to their residence in the area of William Cannon and South 1st at approximately 7:30 in the morning on December 12th. The complainant arrived home, found that Heidi, his girlfriend, and Margot, his daughter, were not home. As the day progressed, the complainant went to pick up their 6-year-old child from after-school activities and found that Margot was not there. The complainant became alarmed and contacted the Austin Police Department along with friends and family trying to find the location of his girlfriend and daughter. The Austin Police Department was contacted at approximately 7:31 p.m. on December 12th. Officers on scene began an investigation. They searched for them both there in the complex, conducted preliminary investigations, and contacted me that evening on December 12th, 2019. At that time, a BOLO was issued. That's a be on the lookout within our department. Both were entered into national and statewide databases as missing, and their information was dispersed throughout the community using a reverse 911 system that reached over 4,000 people in that area. Their images and descriptions were released to the media later in the morning of December 13th, 2019. We utilized various resources and legal processes in the attempt to locate Heidi and Margot. This has been an ongoing process with numerous warrants that have been approved and executed in the search for them. We have spoken with family, with friends, with coworkers, with neighbors. We have canvassed the areas that we know them to have been in. We have done video canvasses of any areas that we have believed them to have been in. We conducted video surveillance in association with some of our federal and statewide partners. We have done extensive video collection, online and social media research, interviews, phone calls, and these investigations have gone across Texas and gone across out-state lines. NCMEC, one of our partners, released a nationwide flyer with images depicting Margot and Heidi. As we progress through this investigation, local, state, and federal partners followed tips and leads that were provided by the public. We received numerous calls to our tip lines, notifications online, of various tips of people who thought they had seen Heidi or Margot, had information related to their location, and those tips were vetted and explored and investigated fully. As the week progressed, this current week, a lead was generated that created a location of interest in the Houston area in Harris County. Federal, state, and local resources deployed to that area of Harris County and began to investigate a residence there. Ultimately, those investigators encountered an individual outside of that residence who was detained on Thursday, December 19th, 2019. As the evening progressed, a search warrant was issued for property at that residence, both vehicles and the residence. Those search warrants were signed and were carried out by the Austin Police Department, Department of Public Safety, and with assistance from the Federal Bureau of Investigation as we conducted those searches. During that search, we located a baby who is currently safe, currently healthy, who is currently in the care of Child Protective Services. That child's visual appearance is consistent with that of baby Margot. As the search continued, officers located a deceased adult female on the property. And as Chief Manley said earlier, early indications would lead us to believe that that is Heidi. The property in Houston continues to be an active scene. We are investigating multiple locations between Austin and Houston and in the surrounding areas with the assistance of the FBI, state-level partners with DPS, the Texas Rangers, and the Harris County Sheriff's Office. The Harris County Medical Examiner's Office is conducting an autopsy today of the deceased adult female to determine the cause of death, determine the manner of death. And as that information is released to us investigators, we will continue our investigation of this event. As Chief Manley said, an arrest has been made in this case. The charges are 2 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of tampering with a corpse. The total bond for the 3 charges is $600,000. That person is in custody as we speak. As I've said, this is an ongoing and active investigation. If you have any information related to the disappearance of Heidi Broussard or her 2-week, now 3-week-old daughter, Margot, we ask that you contact the Austin Police Department at 512-974-5250. Yes, last name Herries, first name Brad, B-R-A-D. I'm a detective.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Combs. I'm the FBI Special Agent in charge. It's been a horrible week here in Austin. We had all prayed that we would be able to find Heidi alive. Unfortunately, as the chief expressed, we don't believe that is the case. We are very thankful, though, that through the combined efforts here, we were able to recover baby Margot, and the baby seems to be in very good health. I know everybody asks, how do we do these things? How are we able to do that? Some of that, we can't discuss openly right now because it's ongoing, but I just wanted to stress that these recoveries happen because of dogged police work, where the Austin Police Department, their missing persons unit, has done an incredible job in combination with the Texas Rangers and with the assets that the FBI was able to bring to bear. It really is through that partnership of those agencies, with a lot of other help from a lot of other agencies, that we were able to recover that baby, which really is, one of the greatest things I think we could do is to save a child. One of the things we brought to bear in this particular case is something called the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. These are national teams that the FBI has around the country that we deploy at the request of our state and local partners whenever a child is abducted. We were able to bring that team here to Austin and work next to the detectives and the Rangers to bring this case to closure and to recover that child. The CARD teams were developed back in 2006, and through this investigation, they've deployed 167 times. What that team really brings to bear is that expertise of being through so many of these abductions, knowing how they work.
The signal froze up there, but we're going to get another signal coming in here in just a second. Get you right back to the press conference there. We were hearing from the FBI Special Agent in charge about their involvement, the federal involvement in this case. Are we back?
M-O-O-R-E. I'm like Special Agent in charge Combs. I wish we had completely good news today, but I am proud of the efforts that have taken place here. I think it's a demonstration of the dedication of law enforcement and the DA's office that we spend, once the call came in, we were working on it 24/7. I want to commend the dedicated lawyers in my office, 2 of whom are standing here with me today. We established a major crimes hotline when I took office, and these attorneys take on this responsibility in addition to their regular duties, so they are on call 24/7. And we got this call. They've been working day in and day out with law enforcement to assist in getting the papers that were needed to conduct the searches and other pieces of the investigation. We will continue to be involved in this investigation, of course, as we evaluate what, if any, additional charges need to be brought. I always feel very privileged to work with these dedicated individuals, and I'm also pleased to be able to tell the citizens of this county how collaborative and thorough law enforcement is as we work on these major cases. I also would like to thank the Harris County District Attorney, Kim Ogg. Her office extended us every courtesy and assistance that we needed down there. So and I expect that to continue. So, thank you for being here.
And as we wrap up the press conference today, I just want to express the heartfelt condolences of everyone you see standing here with me, our community, our department, that we did not have 2 rescues, but only 1, it appears. And our hearts and our minds are with Heidi and her family today and as we go forward. I appreciate you respecting that we cannot take questions because we've given you everything we can at this point, and we are committed to providing you with additional information at which time we can, when it will not impact the further and ongoing investigations. I will say, though, that Special Agent in Charge, Christopher Combs, will do individual interviews if you have questions regarding the CARD team and their operations, but I will reiterate that it is only about the CARD team and their operations, and no questions regarding the investigation or the occurrences will be handled if you choose to do one of those individuals. So thank you all again for coming out for covering this, and we are committed to giving you information when we can. Thank you.
Can Special Agent just give us this stuff?
That is Austin Police Chief Brian Manley there giving us an update today on this case. We were expecting some Q&A there at the end, but they told us right up front that they would not be answering any questions about this case. They would tell us all they could and leave it at that, not wanting to jeopardize this investigation in its very early stages. We can kind of recap here what we heard not only from the chief, but more importantly from Brad Harries, the Austin police detective who has handled this case since the beginning, getting the call shortly after Heidi's boyfriend, fiance, reported her and Margot missing 8 days ago. So we'll bring you maybe up to speed on what's happening right now with this person under arrest, and they would not name her, but we can for you. They didn't want to do that for their reasons, but we can tell you Megan Firamuska is in custody and is now charged, and we can see that from Harris County, has been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping and 1 count of tampering with a corpse, and her bond has been set at $600,000, $100,000 each for the kidnapping and $400,000 for the tampering with a corpse. We found out of this press conference that they encountered her outside of the home when some sort of lead brought investigators to that home just outside Jersey Village. As we look at that here, some recording, some tape from Air 11, and there you can see the vehicle where Heidi Broussard's body was found in the trunk of that silver car that was parked around in back of the home. So, and investigators would not tell us specifically, but some lead led them specifically to that home. They arrived there at some point yesterday, and then what we did not know is they encountered somebody outside the home, took her into custody, and then obtained search warrants to go into the home and into the vehicle there on the property, and that's where they found baby Margot inside the home unhurt, and the body of what's believed to be Heidi Broussard in the trunk of that vehicle. So we didn't know they obtained search warrants. We still don't know what led them to that house in the first place, but we were able to learn from neighbors that that home is owned by a gentleman and that the woman under arrest lives there with him and has, neighbors say, for the last year to year and a half. They were guessing there at what point she moved in. He's lived there for several years. May have purchased the home with another woman, but lives there now with the woman under arrest, who sources in Austin have told our affiliates there. This woman, Megan Fiermuska, was a close friend of Heidi Broussard's, was there for the birth of Margot less than a month ago, and according to law enforcement sources, she herself pretended to be pregnant this whole time, and was pretending that she was also with child, as her friend Heidi was. Let's bring in Grace White, who has been working this story extensively, and we appreciate it. I know you've already had a busy day as all this has started to develop here, well, late last night, actually. Well, tell me when you first got brought in on this last night. What was going on?
Yeah, it was late last night, Russ, and I think it's been hard for anybody, the investigators, everybody covering this case, to really get any good sleep last night. I talked to several law enforcement sources last night who were aware of this case, and then this morning I talked to a source who was actually on scene yesterday and said that it was very disturbing, it was very emotional. Lots of different agencies out there. We've heard that Austin is the lead, but we know that there were a lot of local investigators on the scene as well, and he said that he saw this baby with his own eyes, that he was relieved that this baby was okay, was inside the house and doing well when he got the chance to see her, but they were very sad that the result, for the mom, that they weren't able to recover her alive. He told us that, that this baby again is now in CPS custody, and they are so happy that they were able to recover her.
The baby appeared to be unhurt. The baby was taken immediately to the hospital to be checked out by doctors, confirmed that she is fine. She's less than a month old, and was placed in CPS custody, and we were told by Cheryl Mercedes a little while ago is in a foster home right now, because even though we have a father here, we have grandparents who are very involved in the family. CPS, just through their process, has to check anybody out where Margot would go, including immediate family, to make sure the home's okay, to make sure the people pass background checks. And if they're going to release that child out of state custody, they have to be sure that the child will be safe wherever it's going, even if it's an immediate family member. So for now, Margot is in a foster home, some family that has been checked out and is certified to take a baby, an infant. But we know CPS tries whenever possible to place children with immediate family members. I'm sure this case has gone to the top of the stack right before Christmas here, as they try to make sure a family member can safely take her.
And I think one question we continue to hear from people out there is the motive, is why did this happen? And I know we've gotten some information today, and we just heard law enforcement not really ready to name officially this person that's been charged, but we have heard from law enforcement sources a little bit more on that background. And Russ, in my conversation with the source this morning, they said this friend of Heidi Broussard was someone who actually went to baby appointments with Heidi Broussard in Austin.
And was there for the birth of the child.
Right. So this is somebody who had an intimate relationship with this mom. Obviously, a friendship that did not just, was not just developed overnight. This was a friendship, a trusted relationship. And in the conversation with the source this morning, I was really, it kind of gave me pause. Those thinking about a woman going with another woman to an appointment, before the birth of a baby. That's a significant, intimate setting. And he shared that just so we could kind of get an idea of kind of some of the details that investigators are now putting together.
Sure. As a new mom yourself, right, you're thinking probably, who would I take to those appointments with me if it's not my spouse or in her case, her boyfriend, right? It would be somebody trusted and close.
It's a close circle.
Sure.
Right.
And we're hearing from law enforcement sources who've told our affiliates in Austin that this woman was plotting this whole time to take this baby from Margot, even before Margot was born.
Right.
That this was all part of the plan.
And that's one thing we didn't hear from Austin police today. Right. They laid out this timeline, but they didn't say exactly, at what point this friend took or coerced or however that happened.
Yeah, how do they even know each other, right, too? Right. One's in Austin, one's in the Houston area.
Right.
So, but yet they were close enough that one was going to prenatal appointments with the victim.
Even though they're in different cities.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's all very, very strange there. And again, I didn't think we'd get all the answers today. You have to keep in mind, this happened late last night and early in the morning that they found the body and the baby.
Right, we're still waiting on the autopsy, and you heard Austin police stress that, this investigation continues, more charges could come. There may be other people involved, they're not ready to say, but they're still interviewing a lot of people, and I thought it was interesting, they're still doing a call out for help. You might see our coverage today and think, okay, mom and baby have been found, story over, but Austin police say, hey, still call us. We need tips. We need information to continue to build this case. Something tells me all their questions are not answered.
Right. Well, and you heard the Detective Harries from Austin PD say during this press conference that investigators are still looking at multiple locations between Austin and Houston.
I heard that. That was interesting. It made me wonder where else besides, because we've been focused on this house. We know they had a search warrant to go in. We know they were there overnight. But where else might they be searching between Austin and Houston?
Right. Where did this murder take place? Did it happen in Harris County? Did it happen in Austin and her body was just driven here at some point? What is the involvement of the man who lives in that home in Harris County, who owns the home and lived there with the woman under arrest? Where is he? Is he not involved at all in this?
I did have a chance to discuss that too with law enforcement sources this morning, and they told me he so far was fully cooperating with the investigation. They, nobody would rule out charges, but he certainly hasn't been charged at this moment, at this hour. And I did find it interesting that he was cooperating, But what did he know? How long was he there at this house with Heidi, with baby Margot? We just don't know. They haven't answered those questions.
If he was there at all, exactly. I mean, you're right. When your girlfriend or the person you live with, I'll just put it there, I don't know the relationship, but when she shows up with an infant child and you're there are going to be some questions, obviously. But we don't know that he was even in the home at any point with this woman and baby Margot. So we don't want to speculate there at all. And it's very dangerous to start assuming things in cases like this. This is very complicated, and what you think makes sense, you try to look at it. Yeah, you try to look at it logically and go, well, if this happened, this would have had to have happened. Well, you know what? Anybody who would do something like this, forget logic, forget reasoning as you look at what may have happened and what logical normal people do, right?
Right, and that may be one reason that Austin police weren't ready to discuss motive, because we know now that this woman is in custody, so we know they're beginning their interview process with her, right? But just because she says one thing, right? Heidi's not here to tell her part of the story. Margot certainly can't. So we know that they can't just take this woman's story as fact either. They have to go and then verify it against all these different people and try to figure out, okay, how did this happen? What is the motive? And that may be one reason we did not hear them share those details.
Right. And let me run down a couple of things here that we're kind of stating that Austin police did not confirm during that press conference, and I'll tell you why we're saying what we're saying. We're identifying the body found in the trunk of that vehicle you're looking at there, that silver car behind the house, as Heidi Broussard. Austin police said it appears to be her, but the medical examiner will confirm. We're saying it is because Heidi's mother has told our affiliates in Austin it is her. They're doing DNA testing right now, could be 48 to 72 hours on the child found inside to confirm it is Margot Carey. We're saying it is because Heidi Broussard's mother says it is, and Austin police are saying that child initially appears to be, based on what she looks like, what she was wearing, appears to be Margot, but Heidi's mother says it is. So that's why we're stating that, because grandma says that is her granddaughter that was found in the house, and her daughter who was found in that vehicle deceased. So, and as far as the suspect's name that Austin PD is not naming, we know her name because she has been booked into Harris County, into the jail. And I have that right here in front of me with her bond amount and her name and all of that. So there she is, Megan Rose Firamusca.
And interesting that she's charged 2 counts, right? 2 counts of kidnapping, right. 1 count of tampering with a corpse. So So again, those are the charges now. We're still waiting, right, for her initial appearance here in Harris County?
Well, she did appear.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Well, she appeared earlier, and we can show you that video here. Yeah, Jaime's going to bring that up. So there she is in probable cause court just a couple hours ago, but they brought her up to the magistrate on traffic tickets, outstanding traffic citations here in Harris County, 6 of them. And it was, just the most minor stuff you can imagine, $50 fine type stuff. And she was let off with time served on those. So the only thing I'm going to assume is that's just something they had to clear off the docket because she's in Harris County and she's under arrest. Let's get these out of the way. There's no jail time, there's no fines, just we don't care anymore. But there was no mention of kidnapping and no mention of tampering with a corpse.
Well, and we know law enforcement sources have told me they're eager to extradite her back to Travis County. They want to, again, that's where the case originated, out of Austin, and that's where, the case will continue. But again, because she was arrested here in Harris County, that's why we're seeing her making her initial court appearances here. But it'll be interesting to see, what's next for her.
Do you know if that's, in the cases you've covered here, is that a fairly simple process if you're charged in one county in Texas to be sent up to another county in Texas and those charges just go with you?
Yeah, I think, I don't think they're going to have any trouble extraditing. It'll just,
county to county.
Right. It's obviously
but as far as the
Travis
charges, she was charged here.
Austin,
she was charged here. Yet, it sounds like Travis County wants to handle
I think
this.
it's procedural, Russ. I think
the holder.
Well, procedural in the fact that they're getting those traffic tickets, maybe any outstanding warrants or any outstanding court cases here. That way, there's nothing in the way of the possible extradition.
And the last thing we've been able to see, as far as her physical location right now, was the inmate processing center here in Harris County. And as far as we know, she has not been transferred anywhere else, including back up to Austin, to Travis County yet. But it is possible, and we're staking out the exits there with cameras to see if they whisk her away. But the way I understand it, cars come and go from there a lot.
They do.
And they're unmarked a lot of the time.
They are.
And it's possible she could have been in the back seat of a car that left there and we didn't see it. So
yeah, well, we'll make some calls. We'll try to confirm that because we know that they would likely move her today if they could. But again, the law enforcement sources we're talking to did tell us to expect her initial court appearance here in Harris County. So it'll be interesting to see if this was the last time we see her, or and they'll move her right away and do the other charges up in Travis County, or if they'll do that all down here. From my understanding, again, it seemed like everything would happen here initially and then extradite her.
And we apologize for the quality of this video, but the way it works there is we're not physically in the room, we're not allowed to be, so we're taking pictures of a video screen, and that's why it looks as it does, especially when you zoom in. But she never lifted her head up for as long as she was there until she was called upon, and that was about 30 seconds, and off they went. They were moving on to the next person. Jaime, do we have any questions coming in from folks watching digitally that want to ask us anything?
Some were asking about the when they discovered the body at this home, if we have any word about how long she had been dead.
That's a great question.
Well, the medical examiner will be able to figure that out. The autopsy is underway right now, and that's one of the primary things the ME does, right, is figure out how long that person's been deceased based on what they're able to know by the condition of the body.
And I think, Russ, you made a good point. We don't know where she died. We don't know if it was in this house here in Harris County or if it happened somewhere else and this is where she was found. That's all we know right now, is she was found in the trunk of this car in the home in Harris County. That's a good question.
It makes me wonder when you hear investigators are looking at several other locations between here and Austin, that other things happened along the way that they need to look into. Now, it could have just been stopping for gas, but it could have been something much worse. We just don't know.
Right, and in cases like these, surveillance video is always, some of the best pieces of evidence that investigators go after. We know even if you're stopping for gas, there's cameras everywhere, right? And so they'll use surveillance cameras to build out their timeline, certainly as they're building this case to prepare for court.
Anything else? I see another question up there. Why not name the suspect? And they must be talking about Austin PD not naming the suspect.
Correct.
I found that interesting. If someone's been arrested and booked,
It's public record.
it's public record, and yet they didn't want to name her publicly. I'm not a detective, so I'm not going to question, why they're doing what they're doing.
They also
it
did
is-
take questions, so
right.
we weren't able to ask
Right.
them.
But it is public
sometimes,
record.
right? Sometimes we're able to ask them and follow up, but we weren't able to. In this case, they said it's a special case. Normally they take questions, but today they didn't.
Right. So I can't answer that for you, and they wouldn't answer it either. I think you're talking about investigators here on a horrific case who just want to make sure they do it exactly right. They're going to be very careful, and they don't want to jeopardize anything that they're doing or any case they need to build for court by doing anything in a press conference for the media.
Yeah,
So-
they don't want to speculate. They don't want
Right.
to misspeak. And it's, when you're talking about something, you've been working on it, you don't have a lot of sleep, you've been up all hours. They don't want
Sure.
to say, they don't want to go too far.
Well, and you know what? I overlooked that. You're right. I don't know how long those guys trying to talk on camera and give a coherent story, how long they've been up at this point. I mean, they could have been up all night, and they're trying to, now talk to reporters on TV. That's not an easy thing to do.
Right, and keep
But-
in mind, some of those investigators at the press conference standing there were on scene here in Houston. So,
Right.
We're close cities, sister cities, but, you still have to get in the car and drive.
Another question some of the viewers had was sort of, I guess, kind of like the jurisdiction. If she was murdered here in Harris County or Travis County, does it matter in terms of who has jurisdiction over this case? Like, if the murder happened here in Harris County, shouldn't the case be handled here locally?
It's a great question, and really everybody's been deferring everything to Austin because it's where it originated. They had the original case number, the original missing persons report that now will be turned over to homicide investigators.
But I think you're right. If they determine the murder happened in Harris County, I think that would be investigated by Harris County. Now, I don't know if it would be prosecuted here. In other words, I don't know if you're going to lump the case, all these charges together, if we do indeed get a murder charge at some point against this woman, because we don't have it now. Got to make that clear. We don't know if she will be charged with the death or not. Right now, it's just kidnapping and tampering with a corpse. If they're able to lump all that together in one county in one case, I would assume that's possible because it just makes sense.
And that's one reason too, Russ, that there were so many agencies on scene last night. It's not like Austin police just come here into Harris County on their own. Harris County investigators were working there side by side so that if there are crimes committed in Harris County, they can work together on those.
Right, and boy, there was a lot of cooperation here. I mean, you saw DPS, Texas Rangers, FBI, Harris County Sheriff's Office, Austin PD, the DA's office. CPS is very involved in this case.
Yeah, it's rare to see all those agencies. FBI, we've seen before, Texas Rangers also on scene. So a lot of resources being put into this investigation, but you can clearly see why. A mom and
right.
a 2 to 3 week old infant.
Well, and kudos to the FBI. It sounds like they got on it as soon as they were asked and brought in the special agents, the task force that handles missing kids. And they jumped right in to this investigation with all the other agencies and brought the full force of the federal government with them, which is extensive. And especially if you're thinking you're doing a search outside of Texas, it's always great to have federal agents helping out with that as you cross state lines. But in this case, she did not go far from Austin to Northwest Harris County here. Her body, Heidi Broussard's body, found there in the trunk of that vehicle. Early this morning, after search warrants were signed for the home and any vehicles on the property. A big question we were hoping to have answered today, and it was not, was what exactly led them to this house. We know it's owned by a man named Christopher Green and a woman who apparently no longer lives there, according to neighbors. The suspect who's been arrested lives there with him. We don't know their relationship. But something, and all they said was a lead was generated that brought them to this home. So
I was listening, Russ, to see if they would tell us, was it a Crime Stoppers tip? Was it a tip from family? They did not confirm any of those details.
Or was it just the fact they connected the dots between these two friends, and this is where the other friend, where Heidi's friend lives?
Right. Was it law enforcement generated? Right off of their, boots on the ground.
Yeah, I think that's where most of our viewers are speculating, just trying to just understand, like, how did they come to, to this scene here in Houston area. Just wondering, what led investigators. I mean, it's the question we keep getting over and over again. And it's a question we got a lot earlier when we were on covering this. What led investigators to this home?
And keep in mind, this wasn't random. I mean, someone may have told them, hey, Heidi was friends with this woman up in Houston. I mean, this is a woman who went to prenatal appointments with her, who did things with her, so you have to assume she was around.
And if she was going to those appointments, to your point, Russ, we wonder who else knew her, family, friends of Heidi, who else knew her, because if she's going to those appointments, she is somebody in her inner circle.
So it makes sense that they would try to track down this friend of Heidi's, who apparently was close enough. She's going to these, these appointments with her and things. You would want to talk to that friend, whether she was a suspect or not, about what she knew. And maybe they already had talked to her, I don't know. But it sounds like came upon her outside the home when they arrived at some point yesterday, arrested her, took her into custody at least, detained her.
Then got that search warrant to go inside. The search warrants to go off for the property, exactly. And what I wonder, hearing that part of the story, Grace, is if they take the woman into custody outside the home, who's inside with Margot while they're getting search warrants, and was anybody there? Yeah, it's a great question.
Right.
Again, law enforcement sources told me they found Margot inside the home.
Right.
And so we know she was inside. We don't know who else was there. My understanding is not clear on where Christopher Green was and all of that. But again, investigators we talked to said he's fully cooperating.
Right. And we have not seen him, as far as we know, in any of the video at the location. I haven't heard anybody say anything about him as far as where he physically is at this point. Is he being questioned? Is he gone? Is he around? I don't know.
Right.
And we don't want to drag this guy's reputation around. We don't know that he's involved in any way here. We do know he owns the home. We know he lived there. Neighbors told us they saw him a lot. Didn't talk to him very often, but he was a nice guy and would wave and chat him up occasionally. But we don't know that he was home or anywhere around when all this was happening.
Another question people are kind of asking is that if anybody really saw anything or noticed something, if this body was in the back of the trunk of a car, did people not smell something? Did people not notice something? That maybe something was not quite right. If it's always how long it had been, behind the home,
right,
out of sight. Those kind of questions.
Well, when the medical examiner gets done, those questions should be answered. As far as seeing anything unusual, we only have those two neighbors to go on that who talked for quite a while to us, both of them on camera, and said nothing unusual. I mean,
nothing appeared out of place.
No, with either of them. Although they did say that Megan, they never spoke to her, and she had lived there a year and a half. They would see her, but never had a conversation with her, either of them. They did have conversations with Christopher Green, the owner of the home. The other eerie part of that was, and I don't know, Grace, if you heard this, the woman we talked to who lives next door said she's from LaGrange, not far from Austin. Mm-hmm. She had been following this story. She was wondering what in the world happened to this mom and baby.
Oh, that's
And she was concerned, and she was following it, and she just couldn't figure it out. And she goes, and then she shows up next door.
Wow.
It was amazing how this woman really knew the story. She didn't have to be told, who this was and that this woman was missing with her baby. She was watching closely.
And I think that's what's been fascinating. The story is connected with so many people. I was up lot last night, just talking to different people, some people, investigators, other people, just looking online for any sort of information they could find to kind of send investigators' way to help out, to find tips. You know, it's really something that the general public has also been scouring the internet for.
Yeah, it's been one of those stories. I mean, the last one I remember generating this kind of interest was Malia Davis when she disappeared. And whenever so many horrible things happen in this world, but just locally that we have to cover every day. But when you start involving little kids, that just generates a new level of interest in a lot of people. And at some point, Grace, this morning we were looking up, we get live numbers on what you folks are reading on our website and our digital platforms. We had 2,000 to 3,000 people reading the story on our website at any given time, just wanting updates. And I was telling folks earlier watching on our digital platforms right now, this is one of the rare occasions that we bring you into the newsroom and we just let this story unfold live, and we bring you the confirmed information as we get it. We typically will button it up for you in a web story or on TV. Today we're letting you see the process of this thing just unfolding and all the new information that comes in as we get it.
As you were talking about that baby, I just started thinking about, you know, that moment. We haven't seen that moment yet of her returning home, if she's going to return home to Austin, and what that will be like. So emotional for this family, for their friends, for these communities that have been involved and following this, you know. So we do have a lot of new information today, but like you said, Russ, a lot of unanswered questions still on motive, on why, on how, on where this happened. And will anyone else be charged in this case? We know they're still conducting interviews. And will these charges stand? Will other charges be added? And when will Margot be able to return home to her family?
Cheryl Mercedes told us it's typically that CPS vetting process, you know, looking at potential homes and people can take 30 days. But this is a special case. And you wonder, especially dealing with immediate family members, the father and the grandparents, and maybe some others we don't know about, will they expedite this and quickly try to get Margot into the arms of one of her immediate family members in time for Christmas?
Yeah, a little insight on that, Russ. When I was talking to law enforcement sources, they were saying, you know, when they're on scene, you can't just, even though a child's missing, you can't just go and see somebody snatch them and take them back to where you think they belong. You have to verify identities and also verify who else is in the room, right? And so that when they were working the scene last night, that's what they were doing. Part of that investigation, you saw, you know, the crime scene tape and people taking pictures, but they were also trying to verify, okay, we see this baby here, and, you know, all signs point to Margot. We have to, before we can just remove her, we have to verify her, you know, who she is and where we should take her, you know. And the chain of custody for children, as you mentioned, it's a whole nother level. That chain of custody is so important.
Well, the state's responsible for that child now.
Sure,
so.
And that was interesting to me that, you know, a lot of times you think, oh, they can just go in and just swoop her up real quickly. But, you know, the law enforcement source I was talking to said, you know, it takes some time. You know, we walk in, we see the child there, but then we have to begin the process of verifying before we just, you know, separate everybody and remove an infant, especially this young, from the current situation.
Well, DNA testing is underway on the child found in that home, and again, her grandmother says that is indeed Margot, but they're going to genetically confirm it, and we're told that could take 2 to 3 days for that to happen. So when she was just found early this morning or late last night, and so it could still be a while before they're able to genetically confirm it is indeed Margot Carey. And we'll just have to wait for that. There's no way to speed that up, apparently. We're going to get off the air here digitally here in a minute. I want to recap what we know, and I know you're going to be looking into the story for the rest of today for sure, and you'll bring us what you found, Grace, coming up on later newscast. I have to get ready for the 411 here coming up in an hour from now. It's 3 o'clock. So we heard from Austin PD confirming that a body believed to be Heidi Broussard was found in northwest Harris County in the trunk of a car, and a infant girl believed to be Margot was found inside the home unhurt, now in CPS custody. We also know that one woman is under arrest, Megan Firamuska. She is a close friend of Heidi Broussard, according to law enforcement sources, and she is in Harris County and booked and charged now with kidnapping 2 counts and tampering with a corpse, a human corpse, 1 count. $600,000 bond is what's been set. We don't know if and when she will be taken back to Travis County for what's going on there with charges, but we're thinking that's going to happen at some point. So we have crews all over the place today looking into all these questions. We'll answer what we can starting in less than an hour here on the 411 on the TV side. Keep it here digitally on KHOU as well. If you don't have your push notifications on our app, that's a great way to find out when we're about to go live here with updates. So Grace, thank you very much for giving us your insight on this story.
Fascinating case. We'll stay on it.
Yeah, tough one too. And we'll see you on the TV side here in just about an hour.